You may remember back in 2004, then Senator John Edwards, vice presidential aspirant, gave his Two Americas speech. And back then, what John, the little boy Sue, as I not so affectionately dubbed him, was talking about was that we have the haves and the have-nots. Well, I've got news for you. If we just had two Americas today, we'd be very, very lucky. In fact, if we only had two Americas in 2004, we would have been very, very fortunate. But the reality is that we have many Americas today because we're divided, we're balkanized. We have become a group of disparate peoples trying to coexist within the same borders, largely due, but not completely due to immigration. And this was reflected in last night's State of the Union speech, or as I like to call it, State of the Disunion speech. Now, Donald Trump did a very good job, as most people on my side of the aisle will acknowledge. In fact, I saw a poll, I don't know if it was by ABC, but one of the liberal networks, and even it showed that 75% of its viewers liked the speech. So it was a very good one. And Trump called for unity, which is great, but of course, that call was not reciprocated by the Democrats. They don't want that because they're playing the divide and conquer strategy. But what really, really reflects how divided we are, how fractured we are, in fact, is that the Democrats didn't just have one response to the State of the Disunion address, they had five different responses. And why is that? Because there are so many constituencies out there now, so many groups that they're trying to pander to everyone. So they had one response that they gave to the people who hate America, and then one to the people who really hate America, and then one to the people who really, really hate America, and then one, well, you get the idea. But no, literally, they had little Joey Kennedy of Massachusetts giving the main response. And he was standing there, looked like he had spittle dripping down the side of his mouth, but it was his lip gloss, and that's okay. But really, little Joey looked like some college debate team kid. Not that I mean to insult college debate team members by likening them to Joseph Kennedy. But anyway, he was standing there and he seemed very, very amateurish, but he was hitting all of the major Democrat notes. He was playing the race card and the sex card and now the so-called transgender card. And by the way, the transgender agenda has no good science behind it, as I've illustrated over and over and over again in print. I'm going to make a video on that one of these days. But there was little Joey Kennedy trying to sow discord, using the divide and conquer strategy. And as you saw that, you maybe had to ask, is this what America is all about now? Pushing strange and unusual agendas in order to gain power? You know, it's interesting because the Democrats used to be known as the party of the common man. But it occurs to me that now they're the party of the uncommon man. If you're the average guy living in what they call flyover country, or if you have a blue collar job and you support your family, work hard, come home every night, chew with your mouth closed, they couldn't care less about you. They're interested in illegal aliens, foreigners who don't know anything about America. They're interested in people who subscribe to strange and unusual sexual and racial agendas. Anything that's contrary to the Western ideal. But I mentioned there were five responses altogether. So what were the others? Well, listen to this. There was an official Spanish language response. Yes, a foreign language. That was given by Virginia Delegate Elizabeth Guzman. Now, what occurs to me here is that we have more than 350 languages in the United States. Yes, we do. Thank you, immigration. Thank you, Democrats. Thank you, you leftists, for balkanizing us. That's your handiwork. But why aren't you leftists giving a response in every single language? Isn't that discrimination? Don't you want to be inclusive? Isn't that a big word with you? Then we had a response by Socialist Senator Bernie Sanders. Yes, because you also have to pander to the people who still follow him, the young skulls full of mush who think he's got some good ideas, who think that he's a kindly grandpa with these ideas that seem oh so new, even though they've been tried for about 100 years now and have failed miserably and have led to the deaths of about 100 million people in the 20th century. Yes, they have. But yeah, let's try it again. You know, who cares if they say a definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? Then there was another response by former Congress member Donna Edwards of Maryland for the Working Families Party. And that, by the way, is a quasi-Marxist party. just like the Democrats, so it really fits. And then last but not least, this evening we had a response by Maxine Waters on BET, Black Entertainment Television. And I haven't seen that, but I'm sure she was entertaining because Auntie Maxine, as the left likes to call her, is always good for a laugh, being as she's a person who belongs in a straitjacket in a rubber room. Unfortunately, what's not a laughing matter is that we are a divided country. And it's not something that's going to go away just because we call for unity, just because we sing kumbaya, because we're not divided over minor issues. It's not as if you say potato and I say potato. It's not as if I like noodles and you like rice. These are not matters of taste. We're divided over fundamental issues. Life. When does life begin? Is human life sacred? Marriage. Many people today don't even know what marriage is anymore, and we've got courts issuing bizarre rulings on it. Even the sexes. What are boys and girls? Some people claim to not know. Some people claim that sex is just a social construct and that you can be any one of 100 or more genders that you want to be. These are serious issues and serious problems. And we were not this divided prior to the Civil War. Yes, there was the fundamental issue of slavery dividing Americans, but otherwise they by and large had the same sense of virtue. That's not the case today. Anyway, none of this is going to matter at all if we traditionalists cannot seize control over the culture. We must remember that politics is downstream of culture. As the culture goes, so goes the politics. It's only a matter of time. And for a long time now, the left has controlled the culture shapers, the media, academia, and entertainment. That's the whole kit and caboodle. Those are the entities that manipulate people's thinking. Understand this. We have something called the march through the institutions. Now, where does that come from? It comes from an Italian Marxist named Antonio Gramsci, who lived in the early 1900s. And he addressed a certain problem. Back then, they were asking, why is it that Marxism has not taken hold in Western civilization the way we thought it would? And he came to the conclusion that it was because Western culture was not conducive to the spread of Marxism. So what he did was he prescribed what he called a war of position. This was where they wanted to put people with a Marxist mentality in Western institutions, in the media, in academia, in entertainment. And the idea was that that way they could slowly, incrementally change the culture and change people's thinking so that Marxism would be able to take hold in the West. Now, I'm not saying this was some grand conspiracy. It wasn't. Most of it was done by Americans and to Americans in our country. My point is that it happened. And unless we traditionalists have our own march through the institutions, unless we regain control over them and make these culture shapers what they should be, everything we'll do will be for naught. Because you cannot fight the culture. Political battles are just that. They're political battles, nothing more. In the meantime, we've got a big decision to make in November. People can either empower the Democrats and make sure that this anti-establishment agenda that's represented by Donald Trump comes screeching to a halt, or they can keep the Republicans in power and maybe even give them wider margins in the houses. That would be wonderful. But this is a very important decision. It will be time to stand and be counted. And if Americans make the wrong decision, then they'll have determined their own fate. That's all there is to it.